deflection by Sengun. Picked up by Van Vliet. He gets it back. Oh my goodness, the softest leg Whitmore. What more can Alperen Sengun do?
This your boy didn't know about back with another video. Say, man, Alperen Sengun just had an all NBA level performance, man. Yeah, Alperen Sengun just embarrassed. I ain't gonna say embarrassed Wemby, but he definitely showed the world that he got something to his game too. So I just watched the Spurs and the Rockets game where Sengun had 45 and 16. And I just kind of wanted to get into Alperen Sengun, the game, what I like from the Rockets, the Spurs, and Wemby's performance. But first, let's just get into the game. So the Rockets won 114 1-on-1. And if you just look at the team stats, they pretty much won everything important. The one major thing in the game that it just popped off the screen, it was the steal. So the Spurs had one steal to the Rockets 15, and they had 19 total turnovers. I'm talking about the Spurs compared to only 7 from the Rockets. So I think the points off turnovers that was big. The points in the paint was big, 70 to 44 in favor of the Rockets. So let's get that out the way. And I thought it was an actual competitive first half, if we just go be honest, because it was the Rockets, they won the first quarter 26-21. Spurs won the second quarter 32-21, and then the second half was pretty much all Rockets. Now let's get into Sengun. I've been saying this for a long time. Sengun, to me, and I agree with Shaq when he got on one of these shows, and he was saying that Sengun reminded him of Pau Gasol, Memphis version. Now, I agree with that because I always thought that Sengun was closer to Gasol than he was to a Jokic, but he's still better than a Sabonis. Like, if I'm looking at it like that, I'm looking at it in those tiers because you have a Sabonis, you have a Gasol, then you have a Jokic. I think Sengun is in that middle tier between a Sabonis and Jokic. I think that middle tier is that Pau Gasol type of tier, and I think he has that type of game, and he has more. I think when I'm looking at Sengun, what I really like about him is his feel for the game as a scorer and a passer. Now he does have to work on his jump shot, but he can absolutely dominate in the low post. I think he could dominate in the low post in ways that Sabonis cannot. I believe in his little mid-range floater push-up shot thing. He's shown flashes of being able to shoot more than the Sabonis and the willingness to shoot. I think as he progresses, he's going to become a better shooter than Sabonis by far. And you can actually go to him in the low post. You can go to him in that little mid-range area, and he can facilitate your offense. He can rebound. I think and he's more adept at shot blocking than people might think. In this game, he had 6. Well, they took one steal away, but he had about 5 steals. So I think Sengun just has a very well-rounded game that I think could translate to the playoffs, and I think he has a budding 3-point shot that I think he can still become proficient at. At least he can get around 34%, 35%. I think he can actually get there. Now, this game, people was gonna try to put it like he just dominated Wemby just personally. I think he did dominate Wemby in that second half, but for the most part, it was kind of a weird game for Wemby, and I'm gonna get to that. But Sengun, just the jump shot was falling, the mid range push shot was falling, like I said, and it just was his night, man. Sometimes you just have a guy where it's his night. He did put Wemby in the post, and he put him under the basket a few times. But we're not going to act like Wemby went out here just throwing a lot of Sengun shots as well. Wemby still had about six blocks. We'll go get into that. But I think Sengun he played amazing. He was 19 for 32 from the field. In that second half, he just was a monster. Anytime you a center and you can get 45 points, it's crazy. It's crazy. He was 2 for 3 from his threes. Tonight was just his night. Now, let's get into some other things I like. Jalen Green and Cam Whitmore. I'm gonna get into Cam Whitmore just because it's like Cam Whitmore plays with an aggression, and even to certain times, it's like, man, get off the rock. But Cam Whitmore plays with an aggression that is just so exciting. especially when you got a guy like Sengun. You got a guy like Amin Thompson, who's going to be a good role player. Jabari Smith, who's going to be a good role player. You got a guy in Cam Whitmore who's going to be an X factor. His athleticism, his size, his strength, his mentality, and just his willingness to go get buckets. He was trying to punch on Wemby. He was trying to bully Wemby. And you just see it transition. He's great. I think he's budding as a mid-range shooter, as a three-point shooter. But I love what Cam Whitmore brings to the table. Jalen Green. Now, I'm honestly shocked on how good Jalen Green played in this game, even though his jumper wasn't falling. He was 1 for 10 from 3. Now, neither team shot well from 3, and we're going to get into that, especially like the Devin Vassell's and the Jalen Greens, but we're going to get into that. But Jalen Green, man, he played well on both ends. He was getting downhill. He had 23 points, 11 for 23, but he was 1 for 10 from 3. But most of his shots, they was coming downhill. Jalen Green in that layup, that reverse layup, it was just absolutely beautiful. I think in transition, it was crazy. That alley-oop he caught. I just think as an athlete, he just has so much game, especially going down here. I think he's one of the better finishers at the 2-guard position right now. And I think he needs to be more of a downhill threat, better at cutting, being a lob threat, just doing all the little things like he was doing against the Spurs. I thought Jalen Green played well, man. Fred VanVleet, he was hitting the 3. He was 5 and 9 from 3, so I thought that was amazing. And we're going to get to, I guess we can transition now. We can transition to the Spurs side of things. Victor Wembanyama, he struggled. He played 31 minutes. It looked like he got nicked up a bit. Jabari Smith kind of had him clamped a few times. Dylan Brooks was pushing on him. The size of Sengun was wearing on him. He started off, it looked like he was going to have one of those games, but then he quickly found out that Victor Wembanyama, he was ready for this to be over with. Let's just keep it a buck. His 3-point shot, I felt like, even though he was 2 for 5, and that's 40%, I feel like some of those threes is just like, say, dog, make a move, get to the paint. He only took 10 shots. He was 4 for 10, so 40% from the field, 40% from 3. He did have 11 rebounds. He seemed like he was fouling. He didn't look all the way 100% in this game. I'm just going to keep it a buck. He did look all the way 100%. And Sengun did start cooking him to the second half, but he did start cooking him. He started getting cooked, but he still had 6 blocks. So it wasn't just like Sengun was just whooping on him and Wembanyama wasn't getting his. So I think, yeah. But I do want to say this. Devin Vassell and Malachi Branham. Now, Devin Vassell didn't shoot the greatest. He was only 1 for 5 from 3, but he did have 22 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and he just was getting downhill, just like Jalen Green on the other side. He was getting downhill. He was forcing the action. He was getting to his little floater game. And I think Devin Vassell is one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he's getting overshadowed by Wemby, but I think Devin Vassell, as of right now, is the best, most complete offensive player. Now, you know what Wemby's going to be, what you hope he's going to be, and things of that nature. But as of right now, you can't sweep Devin Vassell under the rug. That dude is a really good player, and he didn't even have to shooting night. Still showed up, and him and Malachi Branham. Malachi Branham's another guy who just really started trying to pour it on, especially in that second half, the third quarter. Those two guys was keeping them in the game. And I want to see Malachi Branham play way more than Julian Champagnie, dog. It's over with, Pop. Julian Champagnie, he's always getting nicked up. He's never really a factor. I get you think he's a defender, I guess, but he constantly get cooked, especially by SGA. That's a story for another day. But Malachi Branham, he is just that scoring guy that you could put next to Wemby and next to Vassell, and he can get you some buckets. He might not be that great defensively, but he can get you some buckets. Keldon Johnson, he was all right. He shot good from 3, but overall, he was 5 for 12 from the field. But Malachi Branham and Devin Vassell really showed up for the Spurs. So I hate the notion that Victor Wembanyama doesn't have help. But this, all in all, this is a good game, especially for the Rockets. They showed up on the defensive end. They showed up on the offensive end, especially Sengun. But yeah, man, let me know how y'all feel in the comments about Sengun and his rise. Yeah, this your boy D-No. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe.
Found some shit I love to do, so I can live comfortable. Searching for a peace of mind, need that when it's time to rhyme. Perfect in every line, any chance I get, and I know it takes time, but I will never quit.